Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome, finally, to my blind reaction of Season 3, Episode 1 of Harley Quinn. It's been over a year since we finished Season 2. And when Season 3 finally started coming out and all, it released, I think, the first 3 episodes at once, and then it started going weekly. I wanted to get to it right away. There wasn't a way to make that work. There wasn't a way with everything else on the schedule to make it work, to bring it in right off the bat, so I had to wait. I had to figure it out. Had to figure out exactly when I was going to bring it in, how I was going to place it, and I finally figured it out. I figured that it was going to take the place of something coming in very soon, and I kind of just thought, we could take a break at points from like having two impressions slots, and we can bring the second impression slot back. It's just we're going to take a break from now while Watchmen is on hiatus. While we're on break from the reactions, I should say. The show's not on hiatus. While we're taking a break from reactions due to the heavy nature of it, we're going to get to something a lot more fun. We're probably going to go right back into Watchmen right after this, but yeah. Something a lot more fun, a lot more exciting, and something I've been really, really excited for. But also something that I've been a little disappointed by, and not from the creators, but from the network. Because if you don't remember, there was a controversy with this when they were working on Season 3. And pretty much no one sided with the network. With HBO Max or whoever, or DC or whoever actually was behind it. I'm not 100% sure. But pretty much no one was siding with them. Everyone was siding with the creators and the showrunners of Harley Quinn. If you don't remember, again, one of them, either DC or HBO Max or whoever, forced a rewrite because they would not allow the showrunners to, not because it was too bad or anything, but they would not allow a scene showing Batman eating out Catwoman, orally pleasuring her. And their reasoning for such was that heroes don't do that. And they kind of ended up having to explain that it's not, they didn't mean that heroes don't have sex or give oral pleasure or anything. It's just they feel they can't sell toys of Batman if they have a scene doing that. That would like hurt the image or hurt toy sales or something. And the problem is there's so many things wrong with that it's like it's insane. Because one, are they selling toys for this series? And if so, why? Because no kid should be watching this series. This is an adult cartoon. If you're using this series to sell toys, and if this series even, if you think it's going to affect toy sales for kids, then there's something inherently wrong going on here. Because again, kids should not be seeing this. Just because it's a kind of a Batman property doesn't mean it's for kids. This series deals a lot with sex, extreme violence, a lot of death and murder, constant swearing. It's like, this series shouldn't be used to sell toys in the first place. On top of that, though, this series isn't about Batman. He's honestly a side character in this. If you were using this series to sell toys, wouldn't it be more towards Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, the Crew, those characters? Why would Batman be who you're selling the toys about? And then, why would that stop toy sales? Like, do you think kids would just automatically be like, would just turn against Batman because of it, for one? For two, again, the kids shouldn't be seeing it anyways, and like, that shouldn't affect things anyways. You think it would stop the parents from buying the toys for their kids because the parents watch this show? If the parents are watching and enjoying this show enough to see into season 3 and stuff, then why would that affect them? And if it's just parents who haven't watched the show and just heard about that, why would it affect them? Honestly, most parents probably would not have heard about it if this entire thing didn't even start. If they didn't start an entire hubbub about it in the first place. The problem is, even if they have the entire toy sale reasoning, which is bullshit, by the way, there's no precedence for it. Even with that, though, they made it seem, even if that's the real reason, they made it seem with the initial statement and the initial reasoning that their reasoning was Batman doesn't do that in terms of, orally pleasuring a woman, which everybody latched onto that. It's like, oh, so Batman's a selfish lover? So Batman is a piece of shit who doesn't reciprocate? And it's like, again, even if that's not what they intended and meant, that is what that came across as. And honestly, that is just what it comes across as. The toy sales, again, the toy sales excuse is bullshit. There's nothing to back that up in any way. But on the other hand, if it were the initial impressions option, like what you initially thought, then that's just fucked up. And the worst part about it is they don't have complaints about any other characters doing this kind of thing. Harley and Ivy have had sex multiple times, no complaints. But Batman, God forbid, has a sexual life. A character who is known for being a very active bachelor, who is known for just getting it on with a lot of women, let's just put it that way. But him having a sex life is suddenly taboo? Yet this is kind of the thing he's known for. Sorry about that. It's like, he's known for being a womanizer. Maybe not really a womanizer, but this is the kind of thing he's known for. A billionaire playboy philanthropist kind of thing. So it's like trying to say all of a sudden, like, oh, Batman can't fuck because that's not what heroes do. That's not how you sell toys for heroes. They have to be celibate or some shit. It's like, because that's the thing. That's what they said. That's not what heroes do. And it's like, how can you interpret that any other way? If it's just for toy sales, how is that interpretable to that? Why can't heroes do that? That makes no sense. Oh. You have no idea how bad that irritates me. You have no idea how bad that irritates me. So it's like, this series was kind of like, with season 3, steeped in controversy during the break between seasons. And again, pretty much everybody sided with Harley Quinn on this. And I've heard that they did something to kind of work around that, but I don't know what. That they put something in there to work around that in the series, or in the season rather. Um, I've also heard that there is a time skip, and that the Eat Bang Kill Tour comics tie into that. I haven't read the comics just because I'm not a big comic reader. It's not really my thing, my preferred medium. Um, but I've also been told you don't really need to. That everything will be understood. It explains everything you need to know, as much as you need to know. Because last we saw them, they were driving off into the sunset. The wedding was crashed, and Ivy finally acknowledged her feelings for Harley rather than Kite Man. And they drove off into the sunset together, kind of confirming their relationship. Um, and the Eat Bang Kill Tour comics, I do know, go further into that and kind of bridge the gap between the seasons. And I do know that the creators have already stated as well that Harley and Ivy will not break up. That's not happening. That Harley will never be getting back together with the Joker. Harley and Ivy is not only endgame, it's permagame. And I like that. Not only just because I don't want to see Harley and Joker get back together because, toxic. But also, Joker actually has a girlfriend now. There is actually something going on with him too, and it's almost kind of wholesome in a weird way. I'm wondering where that's going to go. But also, Harley and Ivy was what this entire series was building up to. Everybody knew it. It was basically the unspoken promise from day one. We knew that it was building up to that. We knew that that was the goal. So they kind of played around with it in season 2 when we were kind of starting to get worried that it was going to start going into a will they won't they situation. And there was kind of the entire love triangle angle with Kite Man involved. But luckily, they did manage to cement it, and again, have now stated that it's not going to change. Which is good. Which is good. But yeah, it's just kind of, where do we go now? Because if there is a time skip and everything, like, how long is it going to be? And what do we do? What's going to be the main antagonizing force? How are things going to continue from here? And just what's going to happen with the other characters, with Gordon, with Babs as well, with all these other characters we've met throughout the couple seasons. It's like, how are they going to be involved going forward? Batman and Catwoman, for example. Like, what are they going to do with that? I don't know, but I'm definitely excited to find out. And I think this series is, it's really a pleasant surprise every time. Because it's like, when I first started watching this, it genuinely pleasantly surprised me. I didn't know what to expect going in. I wanted to like it, as I do with everything I check out, but I didn't know if I would. The only kind of information I had seen on it was very little, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Kaylee Cuoco as Harley Quinn, because it's not quite the typical Harley voice. Even Bernadette, that's not her name. I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays Bernadette in The Big Bang Theory. She did Harley Quinn as well for a movie, and even she did it closer to the actual voice that you typically associate with Harley. But luckily, all the voice actors have ended up doing an amazing job. The humor is really fucking good. And as a satire parody series that kind of plays around with all these tropes within the Batman comics and all, it really succeeds where so many others could have failed. And I really got to give it some massive praise for that. Plus, the characters are likable and interesting. They have a lot of depth to them. And Harley and Ivy's relationship itself, just throughout both of the first two seasons, has been so expertly handled. It's entirely believable the entire time. So yeah, I this series continues to impress me, and I have faith that season 3 will be the same, even if they had to edit out Batman eating out Catwoman. Which, it's like, I hope someone made a fan animation of that in the show's style. Because it's just like, we need to basically give a big fuck you to DC or HBO Max or whoever stopped the show from putting that in there. Because it's not like, oh, we really needed that in there. But no, it's like, again, the reasoning for them not letting it happen was stupid. No matter which side you think it was, whether you think it was because of not wanting to have Batman be shown doing that kind of sexual act, or not wanting to hurt toy sales, whatever the case, it's bullshit. And I think it's just, I would love to see a fan animation for that. It just gives a massive middle finger to whoever made that decision. It's like they'll allow villains to do it, but when the character's a hero, oh no, that'll hurt toy sales. It's like, oh, fuck off. People have sex. Heroes, good people, have sex in real life. It doesn't hurt their image. It's part of human experience. Oh my god. We're gonna get this started. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, we got our kind of main goal, I guess, of the season, at least currently. And we got who might be the main villain of the season. So, main villain is probably going to be Amanda Waller, or at least she's going to be one of them. And I say villain in terms of, like, antagonist. Because I know Harley and Ivy are still technically villains, but still. So, Waller, it definitely seems like there's set up for her to be recurring throughout this season. I don't know how often, but definitely recurring. And I don't know if that means the Suicide Squad are going to actually, like, you know, have more of a focus. Like, we had Plastique. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's one member, but not the A-team that was shown and everything. But I wonder how many of them we're actually going to see. Are we going to see Boomerang? Are we going to see Katana and all the others? Genuinely curious about that. But then we also have the proposed plan, so far at least, currently, because that can change throughout the season. But we have the seasonal plan and kind of set up for the story. So this episode focuses on kind of the honeymoon period, you could say. Although it's not entirely clear, like maybe that's talked about in the comic, but did they actually get married? Because they're acting like they actually got married, but at the same time, like, they do call each other girlfriends in this. But it's like kind of treating it like both, and I'm not sure how to take that. But again, it is. I know the entire thing, like with the end of season 2, happened at a wedding, but they didn't actually get married there. So I'm wondering, like, did they somehow at some point do that after? I don't know. But after all of that, after the Fortress of Solitude, they just kind of go around doing exactly as the tour name implies. They eat all these interesting foods, they bang a lot, and they kill a bunch of terrible people. And it's just kind of their thing right now. And we see that during it, Harley is getting exceptionally clingy. Like, Harley's always kind of been clingy towards Ivy, but more so than usual, to the point where, like, she's celebrating literally every day they're together, by getting Ivy some new gift that's mostly useless stuff, just random things she steals. Um, and we see that she's just trying to do everything that Ivy wants to do while also not giving time for herself. And this is important, because it's like, it's great to support your partner. In fact, it's important to support your partner. But you also have to acknowledge the importance of supporting yourself. Like, it's basically the idea. Excuse me. The idea of just me time, putting aside time for yourself to just reflect, and to just put yourself first, to put your needs first, your desires first. And even with your partner, it has to be a give and take. Both sides should be able to thrive in that. And as we see in this episode, there's a little trouble with that, with Harley just trying to focus so much on pleasing Ivy that she's ignoring her own wants, her own desires, her own needs. And that's not great. I definitely think that's going to be an ongoing theme of this season, at least of the early season. Harley needs to learn to love herself a little more, and to put her own desires up there, so that she and Ivy can, do both. Again, it's great that she wants to please Ivy after they've gotten together. It's great that she wants to constantly shower her in love and gifts and everything. Like, that's fine, but again, it's like, it has to be give and take. A healthy relationship cannot work if it's that one-sided. And we see it leads to kind of our at least current goal of the season, with Harley vowing to help Ivy terraform the planet and everything, which obviously is not going to happen. And I think that's not only just obvious based on, a lot. I think it's important that it kind of doesn't, because not because I don't think Ivy has a point with what she had said and all, but because I don't think it would be good for Harley. And again, for this relationship to work, they both have to have that side. There's a lot she could terraform, a lot she could do to, bring nature back to the world and everything, and have it, like, take a lot of the world back. But if this relationship's going to work, for the context of these characters and all, you have to leave some of the modern day stuff for Harley, because it's been made very clear that the plant and nature isn't her thing as much. She doesn't get as invested in it. As it was shown, she got bored by it. And it showed that she was kind of dependent on and very much in tune with technology and whatnot, and just modern amenities. There has to be a balance there, otherwise this isn't going to work. But we know it's going to work. We know that this is, again, just perma-game. That there is no plans for them to ever break up in this series. And so it's like, you have to figure out a way to make it fit. Meanwhile, Gordon is in this episode too, and he's running for mayor and not doing a good job at it. Even with Harvey Dent, Two-Face as his campaign manager, he's just fucking it all up. Harvey ends up switching sides to the incumbent, and the current mayor ends up being killed by a series of random accidents that just an entire string of what the fuck. Like, it's an entire string of total what the fuck moments that just end up killing the incumbent mayor. And it's like, okay, so Gordon's the new mayor by default then, I guess? Unless someone else chooses to run against him. So that's going to be interesting. And his main goal is taking out Harley and Ivy to stop them. But we also see the crew is stuck in prison. Harley and Ivy come back to break them out and everything. And yeah, it's pretty basic. Not a lot of stuff with them, though. We do see apparently Clayface gets a job on James Gunn's sets working as his chair. And it's fun that James Gunn, that was actually him. That's really funny. But the one thing I definitely want to talk about the most with this first episode is just, I want to bring it up again, the fucking hypocrisy. Because throughout this episode, it showed quite a bit of Harley and Ivy fucking. There was quite a bit of sexuality shown with them. And there was even a scene that showed, like, a legitimate porn parody of them. Like, I've seen those kind of things for, like, Star Wars and other stuff like that. Not usually real people too often. It does exist, porn parodies of, like, real people, but it's, like, it's not super common from what I've seen, at least. But apparently for this it is. There's a porn parody with two, I guess, acclaimed porn actresses based on the GCPD's reactions to them. And yeah, they were really getting it on. And it's like, there was a lot of that in this. And it even there was even a scene where, like, during the Eat, Bait, and Kill tour, Harley and Ivy are just butt fucking naked, rolling around in money and prank calling Gordon to get his credit card numbers. And it's just like, you're allowing stuff like this. You're giving a pass on stuff like this. But simply because Batman is a hero, he can't be shown. It's not going to, like, show it in graphic detail. He can't be shown eating out Catwoman. Just because he's a hero and technically Ivy and Harley are villains. I just... It's so fucking hypocritical. It's so fucking hypocritical. Again, as I said in the pre-thoughts and everything, it's not... The selling toys argument doesn't work because kids shouldn't be watching this. And any parents who are buying the toys for their kids shouldn't be judging an adult show on whether or not their kids can get a Batman toy. It makes no sense. And if it is just their excuse and their real reason is they don't believe heroes should do that and everything or whatnot, it's like, that's just fucked up. And just terrible. And which is definitely worse, but it's like both excuses, no matter what is the real one, is terrible. And it's just, it's not okay. And I'm glad that pretty much no one agreed with them on that everyone stuck by the Harley Quinn showrunners and everything instead. And luckily, I do know a lot of like artists and everything have been um, taking advantage of that and everything. And as I said in the pre-thoughts, I would love to see someone do a full-on fan animation. But I've seen art of this exact thing. I've seen there have been artists who have drawn some fan art of Batman eating out Catwoman. And fuck yeah, good for them. It comes across as a massive middle finger to DC or whoever, but at the same time, it's like, you know, that they don't really take porn into account. And unfortunately, there needs to be more than that. Again, a full-on fan animation or just other stuff in general. And again, it doesn't have to be like the most graphic thing ever. It doesn't have to show every little detail, but just the idea of it. We need to speak out against basically studio and company interference like this. Because every time it happens, it's so bad for the content. It's censorship. And not in a way that makes like any logical sense. Because it's like, okay, you're putting something on Disney Channel, of course you have to censor it to a degree to not have like adult stuff in it because it's on the Disney Channel. That makes sense for censorship. But when you're censoring something like, oh, this is an adult show, it's always had adult jokes, always had sexuality in it, and now you're just choosing to make this really random, singular decision to censor this one thing, and it's just like, when there's so much sexuality in the series otherwise, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid. And it honestly just kind of pisses me off. It's just, it's so fucking bad. It's so dumb. And I'm glad that the showrunners and everyone working on this, I guess, figured something else out. I don't know what it is yet, but obviously don't tell me in the comments. I'm glad they figured out, like, I guess, a workaround, but they shouldn't have had to. There is no reason they couldn't have put that in there. Absolutely no reason. Like, there's so much other media with Batman and Catwoman getting sexual. Or even with just Catwoman as a character being shown as very sexual or promiscuous. I mean, have you seen the 90s movie with Michelle Pfeiffer? It's like, she's very fucking promiscuous in that film. And that's how Catwoman's supposed to be. But even so, there's nothing wrong with two adults having a sexual relationship and the man in the relationship pleasing the woman through oral sex. That's not a bad thing. Like, what? I bet they would have been fine with it if it was Catwoman giving him a blowjob. If the man was the one being pleasured, they probably would have been fine with it. Yeah, I'm saying there's probably a little bit of sexism in there too. I would not put it past them, honestly. I just wouldn't at this point. But this is just going to give me a headache if I keep bitching about this too much here. So this was definitely I wouldn't call it a transitional episode, but a reintroductory episode, because that's really the highlight of this. It's to reintroduce things and to get the ball rolling on this season. That's pretty much the entire meat of this episode, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it's done well, and I think it was done well for what it was. My biggest issue right now isn't with this episode. It's just with the production and everything, and mostly DC or HBO Max or whoever it was who put that like proclamation down. Harley and Ivy were great in this, but it's very clear that they do need to work things out, and Harley needs to see the value in herself and letting herself take command sometimes and doing things she wants to do. Ivy was wonderful in this, and honestly, there was some just great humor in it, per usual. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and yeah, I mean, I won't argue this. There was also some stuff that was admittedly just hot. Just the scene with them butt fuck naked in the money and everything, just like the instant I saw it, it's like, hello, mommies. I mean, I already found them to be attractive characters, so it's not really a surprise that I would get a little simpy for them here. But yeah, I really enjoyed this as a kickoff, but it's definitely not that kind of first episode that really expresses to you what to expect with the rest of the season. It gives like a kind of outline as to what could be, like how this could go going forward, but there's still a lot of questions and a lot of things that need to be explored upon to really get the feel for season 3. Just basically way too early to tell how this is going to go and how good it's going to be compared to the first 2 seasons. So, yeah, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this first episode of Harley Quinn Season 3, and as always, no spoilers. For now, though, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.